Recent developments of tragedy, death, and sadness in Haiti have quite rightly attracted global attention. And it so happens that tonight my guest is from Haiti. Jacques Fleury is his name, a renowned poet, columnist, writer, short story writer, and many other features that he combines into one single intelligent whole. He has agreed tonight to be the voice of the Haitian people. So this 1 hour conversation that I intend to have with him will be a combination of a discourse, a very engaging discourse, I expect it to be, on the history of Haiti, and he will be making every effort as a scholar to contextualize the meaning of the tragedy in Haiti. The second part of the interview then will proceed to engage his work, to engage his sparkling book that has attracted admiration, attention, and critical response. Welcome to African Ascent, Jacques Fleury.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
An honor for African Ascent to have a Haitian of your stature who is going to engage me and also engage the audience to speak about very important matters.
That's right.
But before I do that, Jack, it so happens that when books attract my attention, and this particular one obviously did, partly because the title is so mesmerizing, Sparks in the Dark, a lighter shade of blue. I like the title. And here are some of the accolades and admirations that the book has quite rightly attracted. Perhaps for the sake of my reviewers, I should read a few of them. Essentially a summary of what readers are saying. For example, one author writes, the veins of Jacques Fleury have more than blood running through them. I could exhaust a flood of adjectives and still not be able to touch upon the passion of his lines. Inside this book, innocence, perseverance, and love walk hand in hand with hardship and the knowledge of self-loathing adult. Fell short in comparison to Firefly's quiet understanding. How flattering.
This is a quote by the Boston Globe on the front cover.
Precisely. And then another equally mesmerized reader adds, the Haitian firefly is just that, full of fire that flies. These poems fill you too and lift you up with the passion of life. Birthed in pain, suffused with joy, and exemplified by Jacques himself. See him, hear him, feel him. You'll not be disappointed. How wonderful.
Yeah.
I'm jealous.
I particularly like that one.
Well, of course, anybody would like this. I wish people would praise my work the way they are praising me.
I'm sure they do.
And finally, another admiring reader adds, Jacques is a brave soul. What a gift. His poetry moves me by its raw honesty. There is a point when an artist becomes a master, and then everything he touches on turns to gold. Jacques is a master of speaking his truth. His poetry continues to reflect in my mind long after seeing the face of truth staring from the page. Finally, I like his word, another author writes. It wins my heart. How wonderful. So now, before we begin delving into the architectonics of your work as a writer, what I think we should do in light of the tragedy that is occurring in Haiti, if you don't mind, I can imagine how painful this would have to be.
Yes.
Perhaps we could begin by talking about the history of Haiti.
Okay. If you want to talk about the history of Haiti, I just published an article in Spare Change News entitled the rise and fall of Haiti.
That's right. I can
And it
spell
is
change, yes.
a feature article that I researched very, very I went in depth in I researched the history of Haiti from 1492 to 2010. So I had to do a lot of research and condense all that I learned into just a couple of paragraphs about the history of the country.
Amazing.
And which was a harrowing task, as it was. The couple of paragraphs that I want to read, it just tells you a little bit more about Haiti and the history. In 1492, Christopher Columbus landed on the island and called it Hispaniola. Taino Arawak Indians, who referred to their homeland as Haiti, spelled Hayti, or mountainous land, originally inhabited the island. In 1697, slaves were sent to Haiti. This island was cherished by European powers for its natural resources, including cocoa, cotton, and sugarcane. And so the French shipped in thousands of slaves, mainly from West Africa, to harvest the crops. In 1804, after a slave rebellion led by a man named Bookman, in 1791, Haiti became the first black independent state under General Jean-Jacques Dessalines, who declared himself emperor. America feared that the slave rebellion in Haiti would ignite anti-slavery insurgencies in the southern U.S. states. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why America's relationship with Haiti is strained till this day. In 1844, after decades of strife and multiple rulers, the island was split into two nations, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. In 1915, U.S. Marines occupied Haiti to supposedly calm a state of anarchy. The Americans improved the infrastructure while helping to create the Haitian Armed Forces. In 1957, a reign of terror began with François Papadoc Duvalier when François Papadoc Duvalier seized power. His son, Jean-Claude Baby Dog Duvalier, just 18 years old, took over in 1971, continuing his father's legacy of tyranny. In 1986, a rebellion ignited as protests gathered steam. The U.S. arranged exile in France for Baby Doc and his family. In 1990, after decades of dictatorship, former Roman Catholic priest Jean-Bernard Aristide became Haiti's first freely elected leader. Just a year later, in 1991, after a military incursion, Aristide was ousted and forced to seek exile in the U.S. The coup ignited a mass exodus with more than 40,000 Haitians rescued by the U.S. Coast Guard during a 12-month period. In 1996, René Préval became president. In 2000, Aristide was elected once again. Then in 2004, political violence plagued the nation's capital, with accusations of a fraudulent election looming a few weeks after Haiti celebrated its 200th anniversary. A rebel movement usurped control, and Aristide was forced into exile a second time. During the same year, deadly floods left 2,000 dead and caused deforestation. In 2006, Préval was elected in the first election since the overthrow of Aristide in 2004. In 2008, food prices in Haiti aggrandized, as they also did elsewhere in the world. But the situation